Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of Hobby Night in Canada. In this episode, we're going to talk about the hobbies within the hobby. So, the multi facets, I guess, of this already niche hobby that is tabletop gaming, and the various kind of parts. And that will be part 1 of this episode. And in part 2, we're going to dig into finding enjoyment or finding success in those parts that you don't necessarily enjoy or you're not necessarily good at.
Because it looks like a legal goal.
Alright, so welcome to episode 2, and in this episode we are, first and foremost, going to take a peeper here behind me. As you can see, it's not less of a mess than in episode 1, but you can notice that a lot of the empty boxes over there are, well, they're now empty. So I'm working through this whole pile here. So that's, that steps in a good direction. A bunch of steps in the good direction. Eventually, it will not look like a total mess. But for now, it is what it is. But we're fighting through it, guys. That's the important part. And then second thing, you'll notice I've traded the gray T-shirt for a gray hoodie, which means it's kind of getting into the best hobby season. I don't know about you guys, but summer is never my main hobby period. It's always fall into winter, and then spring. Those are the three core, and then summer. It's just not. I don't know. It's just less hobby feel. Let's get started with today's show, and we're gonna maybe pick off a little bit where we left off. So if you didn't check episode 1, well, we're gonna try to make this episode make sense on its own, but definitely do check out episode 1. The one thing that I found fascinating, I talked a little bit about it in episode 1. What I really wanted to explore a little bit more is the different facets of the hobbies, or as I call it, like the hobbies within the hobby. Because, tabletop gaming is a very, like, for the niche that it is, it's a very broad thing. And that's one thing I think I've realized working at the store is a lot of, like, everybody gets kind of its own little thing out of the hobby. And the facets that they prefer are maybe not what I prefer or what you prefer, and what you prefer is different from mine. And I find this very cool because there's not one way to enjoy the hobby that's better than the others. There is. It's called enjoying the hobby, right? Because I think for a lot of people, just focusing on the parts that they enjoy is kind of the key. Whereas if you try to force yourself to like everything about the hobby, I think that's where it stops being maybe fun, and that's what we'll dig into part 2. But for now, let's just talk about all these facets, because I've touched this a little bit when I said about the painters thing, that the painters think about painting as the best way to enjoy the hobby, and then whatever it is that they do, and I find this very often in competition painters. The higher end, and that's why I think they get sometimes this little snobbish like attitude, is because the way that they talk about miniature painting is that their way is the correct way to paint miniature, and everybody else is wrong, and you're not getting it. If you're not doing that, you're not getting it. I think that's where maybe the stereotypes of the pretentious artist comes from. It's really, there's no one way to enjoy the hobby, or your way is not. And painting is a good example. Just within miniature painting itself, the big difference between the guy that like find and enjoy like slap chopping, and like where you're very result oriented, right? Like I love getting my armies on the board, and the guy that does competition painting, that's also result oriented, but a totally different result. Whereas your army with contrast is mighty fun, but the one mini that took more time than 4 of your armies and won a golden demon, that's what pushing your artistic skill to the next level versus just the commitment. It is two completely different hobbies. Like, they share very little. And even in the miniature painting, like, if you think about all these aspects, like, I had a buddy that loved building models, like putting kits together. He would never paint. Like, I painted most of his stuff, but he would put together boxes on box. I think him and another friend, they bought everything. He was a building guy for like everything, because he just loved building. And for me, building is not something that I particularly enjoy. And you find that in the hobby, and you also that's just for painting, but just even every aspect is kind of different. Like converting, or my buddy Rickard, he designs STLs. Like his main fun in the hobby, like he barely paints. He doesn't like painting, or he's not good. That doesn't matter. But he designs STLs because he's deep into the 3D printing. So like he's like converting in his creativity in the art part of like miniature painting or the wargaming, I guess, comes into this form. And I thought that's wild, because I will never that's so far from my center of interest. And yet we'll go to tournaments, and I'll see him, and we're in the same thing, but our enjoyment is like completely couldn't be further from couldn't be further. And you also see this in gaming, and that's probably one of the biggest like gaming kind of maybe not polemic but problem, which is gaming has so many aspects of even just playing. Let's say you just pick one game, because again, you can, like, some people love Horus Heresy. I'm not a type. Some people love Old World. Some people, all these games are like different, and people have like their favorite, but just sticking to one game, the difference between playing, me really enjoying narrative games and having like just fun with my buddies pushing malls around, and going to a tournament is night and day. Even if we're playing the same game in the sense of like rules, but really we're not playing the same game at all. Where narrative games make no sense for a lot of people. A lot of people don't get enjoyment out of this because they try to turn it into a kind of a competitive thing. And a lot of people that should be liking competitive games are kind of being sold you should play the competitive setting. That's how the game is meant to be played. The game, we're playing little war dollies. The game is meant to be played the way you enjoy it. And I think turning everything into competitive play, because I've seen, like, in my buddies that don't really play Warhammer, I've seen a bunch of them talk to me, like when I was deep into the tournament scene, like 2 years ago now, or less. Yeah, I don't know. Time is a weird concept, man. But like the year I got really into competitive gaming, a lot of people were like talking to me about, I like this, or this is the game. So I'm like, but you play with the same 3 people in your garage, Johnny. It doesn't matter if like Eldar's busted, because you and your 2 buddies, you don't play Eldar. It's a pointless for you. This drama is pointless because you don't get this whole part of the hobby, and you nor should you have to. It's perfectly fine to play, but again, this is kind of a topic for an entire show. But I guess the main takeaway of part 1 of this show is really the only wrong way to enjoy the hobby is to not enjoy it, right? I keep saying to a lot of people, at the store, when I go to play the game store, I keep saying, you know what, man, Warhammer is more fun when you're having fun, because sometimes they play stuff that they don't like. Or they get into these situations again for the sake of competitive gaming that they don't really like, and I'm playing this random bullshittery just because I'm having fun. And I'm always having a good time, because Warhammer is more fun when you're having fun. And I think this translates really well into the hobby, where kind of instead of trying to do it all or doing as you're supposed to, enjoy the hobby, which is like that's my main gripe with a lot of painting, is like people that love painting tell you that you should love painting, or that's how you paint, or you're not doing it correctly. Fuck those people. They're wrong. Do what you like, and there's a way to get most, like, if you don't like painting, there's a simple way to do things. It exists. It's out there. You don't have to spend 3 hours per model. There is a way to enjoy the things, and other things you have to kind of shortcut or find alternatives, and that's maybe what we're going to talk about in part 2. But before we get to part 2, let's take a little break here, a little housekeeping. First of all, thank you for watching. I like the little support that we got on episode 1. I think it was well received, and I like that. So hopefully this perdures. And also take a moment to like or rate this episode, depending on where you find it. It helps the show a lot more. Which brings me to part 2 of this housekeeping thing, which is the podcast version of this podcast. Still as of today, I didn't have time to look into the actually putting out a podcast in a podcast form is a little bit more complicated than I thought, or than I remembered. I did it in the past, but anyway, it's still not available right now outside of YouTube. It will be eventually. If you're watching this in the future, just know that I figured it out. If you're listening to this actually in podcast form in the future, just know that we did it. But for now, yeah, still only on YouTube. But I've not given up. It's just in the long list of things. And then part 3, we got our first mail customer. We got our first customer complaint. One episode in, and I think it's more of a question, but I think it's funny. So somebody sent me a message after the show. He said, "Hey Max, why is it called Hobby Night in Canada when the episodes are released Friday at 10 a.m.?" And that's a fair comment. And so just to give you just to pull the curtain a little bit, these episodes are indeed recorded very late at night. You can't tell because the superb lighting in this room and the curtain. But it's currently 11:50 p.m. I'm recording these very late at night, but then I release all my YouTube videos on Friday at 10 a.m. Like right now, I only have my schedule is only one video per week. I only have time to record and make one video per week, realistically, and so that's why we do the podcast 1 week out of 2. I would like to eventually get to a point where I can release a regular video on Friday, and then maybe move this podcast eventually to a proper like release date, which would be probably Tuesday nights, because that's like the whole the old school thing, like Hockey Night in Canada. It used to be the Tuesday hockey program, at least back in the day when I was a kid and I watched it with my grandpa. That used to be the thing. So I would like to get there. Right now, my YouTube like schedule is not like that. So so first of all, thank you for the question and making sure that you people were not being lied to, right? You have to call me out on my bullshittery. But this was not one of those times where I was bullshitting. It's actually it is recorded at night. It's just released on on Friday morning. So if you watch these as they drop, the Hobby Night thing doesn't really apply. So that was cool. And if you want to reach out, there's a link below. It's like take you to a contact form. Because one thing we have not gotten is miniature submission for the miniature of the week or miniature of the show or whatever. And I know you guys paint. I've seen you guys do it. So you can post it again the same form. I think it will send. It allows you to send pictures, or there's a Discord link somewhere. We have a section on the Discord for pictures for the show, so you can put those there and just say, this is what I worked on. I'm super proud, or how do I improve this or that on my mini, and that will become, hopefully, I would like to make that an every episode type of feature in the show. But for now, let's just look at 1 minute I did paint this week that I think looks pretty baller, and share a little fun story with it. So this is the Grand Cathay Golem Mini. I'm doing this for a commission, and I had a lot of fun to paint it. It's probably the worst kit to build, but in terms of painting, this is the one I was most excited to paint because I think it looks baller. And I thought about painting it all gold. Originally, my plan was we'll make a big, like all gold statue because it fits with the army. Has a lot of gold in it, and I was like, "Oh, just do a really big, like all gold statue. Is gonna look like super baller." And then I thought it will look super lazy. My buddy, because it's a commission, my buddy will think, you're charging me money for this, and you're painting it all gold. Like this is, even though the gold is like worked. It's not just like one base coat, but. So I was like, yeah, okay, maybe it would be too lazy to just do one color on this golem. So I added a couple of features like the red plates and the weapon, like jade, or I don't know what that metal looks like, with the green on the weapon. And then I was looking for something on online, like I think the side of the base, like what facing you should be on the base, and all the freaking models on Games Workshop, they're all monochrome. It's like all gray, all brown, all bronze. I was like, son of a... The lazy route was the correct way to paint this mini according to Games Workshop. But I'm, I can't be mad. I think it looks really good. I'm super happy how it turned out. So that was the model of the week. And again, if you want to send, your own model of the week, there's a link somewhere to this, either in Discord or the little email contact form that you can find below. So let's get down to part 2 of this episode, which is kind of the side hobbies, or the parts of the hobby that you don't enjoy, that you kind of need to go through, because in part 1 I was like saying, you can kind of ignore the parts that don't bring you fun, and this works really well for gaming. Whereas if you just like painting, you don't have to force yourself to play games. It's perfectly fine to just collect miniatures and display it's fine. Nobody forces you to play with. But some steps are a little bit more like kind of crucial than they are. Like for example, like building minis is kind of a rite of passage, I guess. You have to build your minis in order to paint them or play with. Like no matter which end of the hobby you have to kind of go through the putting together your mini part. And as I said earlier, for me, it's not the most fun, but I've got my little system to make it kind of not suck as much. And I think it's an important idea to focus on this and to find ways to kind of enjoy or shortcut or get through these parts that maybe that suck a little bit. And for me, one of these big things, because of the commission painting and everything, is miniature photography. I hate photography. I know enough about photography to know how much I don't like it. And for the longest time, photography was kind of a big hold on my business, because when I was doing this, and we're talking like 10 plus years ago now, but when I was doing this kind of full time in the previous, like the pre having the shop, the only clients I ever got were people that I talked to face to face, and I could see my model face to face because my pictures were so bad. And that was, as a commission painter, was a very big drawback, because it worked fine for me at the time, because I was going to a lot of events. I was working at another game store, and so I had people would see my stuff face to face a lot. And the first 2 international commissions I got were 2 people that I went after Nova. I went to Nova. I was talking to friends from online. They were seeing my models in person. They were like, I want you to paint stuff for me, and they gave me models and whatnot. And those were the first 2. And even when I was showing them the final result or the work in progress, they're like, I'm not sure I like it. I'm like, oh, don't worry, it's a full model. And when I remember my buddy Phil was my second ever internet commission, and when he got them, was like, I'm relieved, because I did not like the picture, and they don't look anything like the picture. And this, from a commission standpoint, it kind of sucks, because you want your pictures to be accurate representation, whereas mine were really shitty. And so somebody that did not know me, that kind of stumbled upon my website, let's say Bill told them, hey, just go check out his stuff. He painted stuff for me, and then he sees all these crappy pictures, he's not going to hire me. And on the opposite end, especially back at that time, there were people that were touching up their photos, and you would look at their picture and this is a balling miniature, and then you look at the real mini that they would send, it would look not like the picture at all. So that was kind of in the commission game, very specifically, that's a big issue, is how you present your minis to the world and getting good pictures. So just as building minis is kind of a rite of passage for miniature building, if you're into commission, getting a halfway decent picture setup or photography setup is a rite of passage. You need to get it together. Since I'm doing this kind of in a sort of professional capacity for now, I decided to up my game. Back when I had the store, I didn't really have this problem, kind of completely by accident. It was not by design. It's just the fact that the store had so many neons. It meant I just never really had to think about taking picture. The environment was always the same, and it worked really well while at the store, and also I was not doing it very seriously. But then I moved the shop back into my apartment for a minute when I stopped doing the store thing, and I just did the miniature painting. moved everything back in my apartment, and now I don't have a photo studio. I don't have 6 rows of neons anywhere, and now I have to take pictures, and it worked for the first couple of like months. And then because I paint a lot of things on like tight deadline for like, people send me stuff, and then lots of my friends are big tournament players, so they have like deadlines to work around. So sometimes it gets kind of a little bit in a rush of things, and the only way I could take good pictures in my apartment was when it was daylight. I needed the daylight. Like I have the 2 kind of like larger windows, not bay windows per se, but large windows, and so I need the sunlight from them. And so it needs to be like the proper like time of day with the sun out, and then I could take good pictures. It was just a very specific set. One time I finished a commission middle of the night, can't take pictures middle of the night, no sunlight, and the next day it's raining, but I have to bring this commission to the post office that day. That was a 4-day commission. It was one of the stupid things I do sometimes. But yeah, that was one of those where I got it like on Monday, and it had to be out the door by Thursday. So that was not my brightest, but and I realized I can't take there's no way I'm taking there's no sun out. It's like a stormy day, and I was like, oh, this is bad. Yeah, that was kind of a little eye-opening moment of like, well, we're fucking up. So so I'll just explain to you. So my goal, whenever I'm faced with like stuff that I don't like, I take one of 2 avenues, and it depends on which. The first one being I try to shortcut it as much as possible, right? So this is what I do for miniature building. Is I've found like as many shortcuts, and I've bought like I pay more for like different tools to speed up the process, because I don't like building so much, but it is very convenient to build stuff because you need to, and for a lot of like things to paint, you want them to be on a like sub-assembly. The building thing I tried to shortcut, so I buy a lot of like tools that make this life easier. I got a setup that's like only for this, and for photography I went the opposite, where there's no real shortcut, or maybe there are some, but it's really more finding like a good system that makes it kind of like foolproof, and I don't have to really think. Because as soon as it becomes a chore, I think that's where the problem is and starts piling up. Where I had this with building for a while too, when I moved into this place where I didn't have like the setup for it and all my tools in it. So I would stack up a bunch of stuff until it became like a very until my handheld became a mountain of sprues. Photography was kind of the same thing, where I would pile up a bunch of projects and I would wait for the last second because I hated it. And it was always a chore. And so what I'm doing now is I have a very clear system to do it, to make it as kind of automated and foolproof as possible, so it is less of a chore, or it is an easier chore to do, right? And so my process was kind of very simple. The first thing I did was I made a playlist on YouTube with 20 some videos about building a photo studio and miniature painting photography, photography. And so I found like a bunch of, and when I did this, I typed how to take pictures of miniatures, how to build a photo studio, how to build like all the like keywords or whatever, and then I added a bunch of videos without looking at them. And then over the course of like the next like couple of weeks, I watched a couple. I was doing like I go to the treadmill on the gym, and I put a couple of videos, do my little treadmill thing, or I walk to the game store, to the supermarket. I'll watch one while we're doing that. And because that's a very I call this a needle in a haystack technique, where a lot of these videos, there's like one key information. There's like a nugget of information somewhere in this, 17 video with like a sponsor and then 3 ads or whatever. So I don't think it's the perfect system, but it's a good enough system for me, because I don't have like a specific timeline for this. It was like, I need to figure this out. So the first step was like really figuring out exactly what I wanted to do. And I did this through kind of like, I guess, broad research. I did my own research, so to speak. And so that was step 1. And then step 2 is like gathering all these little, nuggets of information. And then I talked to one of my buddies that's like, he's the real deal. He does, you know, photo lighting videos. He like that's his real job in life. And when you have like these people, you don't want to come at them with like the super noob thing. You have to know at least a little bit. At least that's what I found with like working with other professionals is if you come at them with like questions like you did zero work, you're gonna waste their time and they're not gonna. So I did a lot of like the I was like, hey, I you know, I'm getting into this photography thing. I'm building this photography thing. From what I understood, I need to, you know, do this, and that. Is that, you know, is that sort of correct? And I was like, yeah, do that. And then he sent me like a tip or two, like, but also, you know, don't do this. So step one is like finding a bunch of information, and step two, I guess, is validating this information. You can probably, for a lot of subject, you can probably do this with like ChatGPT. I don't think it works like obviously not 100%, but just not coming at this from like a total noob standpoint of like, I looked zero into this before bothering you. I found that this as a great approach, because it shows you put some thought into it. You just need some confirmation. So that's a little trick I picked up. But so anyway, yeah. So my buddy, he steered me in the. I was obviously in the right track, and then he steered me a couple of like faux pas, I guess. And then the next step is probably the step that I hate the most, which is buying stuff. And so, armed with like my little video knowledge and like my buddy's confirmation, I was like, okay, well, the most important thing, like the step one of this whole photography thing, if you're into this yourself, is make sure that you control the lighting. So if you control the lighting, like the closest to like 100% of the lighting, you got this whole affair mostly figured out. Getting the lighting controlled, right? So literally the opposite of what I was doing up to that point, which is, let's hope it's a sunny day. Let's hope it's a sunny day, and it's about 3 p.m. So I went the exact opposite of, instead of like trying to use the big like bay, I'll call them bay windows, they're not, but instead of using the big bay windows, it's kind of the reverse, where I want to black out an entire room and set up my own lighting, and then the lighting never change. And my first thought was I should do this in a closet. I have like a lot of closet space in this apartment I barely use, because I have 12 gray t-shirts, one hoodie, one coat, and there's like one other closet that's being used, and that's about it. So I was like, I'll just put this into like a closet. Like the light in the closet is like non-existent, right? Then we got like big doors and like a big closet, and it didn't really work because there's no outlet near any of the ones I wanted to use. So I had to revisit this. So instead, what I did is I bought 2 blackout curtains, like these big black curtains that are very opaque. These allow me to stop the light coming in, even in the middle of the day. So I get like almost zero. Obviously, it's not a perfect zero amount of light, but the difference between like 2 a.m. with like street lights on and 3 p.m. with the big sun like right in front of the windows, very, very minimal. So instead I have, you know, and then I shut all the lights down in the apartment, and I have this room that's like very, very dark, that I can just set up my own lights. And then part 2 was I built a little, you know, a little foldable table, very like a smaller foldable table with a little cloth, because just to make it pretty, because I want this to be a permanent feature. I don't want to, again, the idea being to shortcut and define a system that's like very easy. I want this to be a permanent setup. I don't want to set everything up for pictures every time. This sounds like a nightmare, and this sounds like a chore. So we're going to make this permanent. So I wanted this to look like not like a folding table. You know, I got a little tablecloth, a little folding table that doesn't look good, but doesn't look bad. And then I got lights and a photo booth, like a light booth. And the light booth you can probably get away with depending on your light situation, because the goal is just to stop direct light from hitting your minis. It's like a diffuser, I think the proper term. So if you buy lights, like very more high-end light that I got, you probably don't need the box, but I got the box because I bought the cheaper lights. And the lights, I went with something that's called the 3-light system. It seems to be the easiest one to figure out. Like, it's a lot of streamers talk about this, and a lot of photography articles and tutorials talk about this as
it's not only like the kind of it's the easiest professional setup that you can get. It's somebody that's really deep into this can correct me, but you can get professional result. Now, obviously, with the setup I have, or professional result is a little asterisk, but you get good enough results, which is, again, I'm not going to reinvent myself as a photographer. I'm not going to find this, I'm not going to discover this passion. I'm looking for the bare minimum of like, this is good enough. And does not feel like a chore, right? So I got all of this set up, and now this is really all that you need, kind of. Whereas if you already have like a table or a space dedicated to this, it's 6 items, right? 3 lights, 2 curtains, and a box. And in my case, it was you added a folding table. The next little thing that I like, I got a couple of other like gadgets, I guess. So the lights came out with different like colored thingies, and I think if you enjoy more photography and you want to play with it, this is fun. You get a lot of like cool effects. I'm not really into those. They came with the lights, and that's good enough. But I don't think I'm gonna use those too much. The little spinny thingy I really dig. If you're into like Instagram and whatnot, like TikToks maybe, you can just get like a miniature and it spins, and so you get like 360s of your minis. I think it's a fun little thing. I've been playing with this one a little bit. And the little stand is also more practical than I thought. It came with some of the stuff, I don't remember which. But the stand is very practical because it's just when I do armies and I do like big batches, it allows me to set up my camera, which I use my phone because I have a good camera on my phone, and so it allows me to use my phone and set it up somewhere, and then it doesn't change, right? Because if I'm like holding my phone and I have to move the minis around when my phone's like moving, so I just set up the camera on the stand, and so this entire like session, or like this entire like army, all of the pictures I want in a certain angle are going to be in that angle, and so I don't have to dabble with the light or anything. It just works. And really, that's kind of all that there is. And then it's just, again, finding stuff. So my phone has like a couple of settings, and I don't take a whole lot of like pictures in general besides hobby stuff. So one of them is like a kind of the default setting, and I set up the default setting on my phone to be the default setting of all these lights. So that every time I open up my camera, it defaults to all this stuff, right? Like the proper, like the size, the density, focus, all the stuff works by default for that setup. I never really have to think more about that. I did it once correctly. It took me a couple of tries to set up, but now it's kind of good to go. And now I get okay results. I'm a big systems guy, and I don't think you need to necessarily love everything in order to do it. And this worked out really, really well, whereas I've never had this much, I think, success in taking pictures and not thinking this sucks the whole way through. I'm very happy with this. It's a very easy system, and it's kind of foolproof to get a good enough result. And I've started to look at other aspects of my business in the same, like, let's set up like a very foolproof system for this. The one I'm focusing now, this was my last quarter project. Well, sorry, it's such a corporate thing. I work in quarters because for me, this is a business of whatever. So that was the thing I did the last couple of months. But now I kind of like turned my attention to my shipping station. I'm trying to like see what works for the picture stuff, and then I want to apply, because shipping is also not like a really great, like it's really like the shipping state is just really, it's a job kind of like where you pack up minis, you build a box, pack a mini, print a little receipt, tape the receipt. You know what I mean? Like it's so having like a good process to pack up my minis to ship them is kind of great. And now I got kind of a bone because the tariffs are in full effect, and then shipping to the USA is complex, and Canada Post is currently on strike. So that project has been a little bit sidetracked, but that's fine. Gives me more time to figure out this little system thing that I can use for my literally the Hellfire shipping department is now going to get a little boost, because now the Hellfire photo studio is also kind of like done with the little checklist, little system going. So this is it for episode 2. Thank you very much for listening. I think again, there's parts of the hobby that you might like, there's part that you might not like. I would try to it's a hobby. We're in this to have fun. And so the stuff that you don't need to do, I would just not really do. And the stuff that you have to do that you maybe don't really enjoy that much out of the hobby, I would try to shortcut it or find like systems that make it easy for you to do so it doesn't feel like a chore. Because once again, Warhammers were more fun when you're having fun.